Yes, we have not been canceled just yet. I am your host, Steve Cully, the best podcast host in the universe, back for another year of Husky Hoops. And with me is always the man who is always looking to better himself and has a big game this Sunday, Coach Schumann. Coach.
What's up?
The UConn women's legend and current Western Connecticut State University head coach, Maria Conlon.
Hey guys, it's good to be back.
And the icon himself, the icon, legendary voice of the Huskies, the best of the best, Joe D'Ambrosia. Joe, great to see you.
3 times in 1 week with you two knuckleheads.
I know. I was just thinking of
He's got him so handsome and easy on the eyes for you, Joe.
Exactly. Eye candy shoe.
I was just thinking that he's gonna have to see us 3 times in 1 week. He's gonna go nuts.
All right.
Could be. So worse. I was doing some modified research for once, and I saw that they had the Big East Media Day. They brought Caravan there. They brought Solo Ball. Joe, did you get anything out of did you see anything out of the Big East Media Day that was of substance?
See that number I'm holding up? 0.
That's what I figured. Okay.
Those media days are all those media days is a chance for the league to publicize its all league teams, to get together, to try to get as many New York media members who won't cover another college basketball event all year to show up. And it's just, the TV people get stuff, the radio people get stuff, the writers get stuff, but in 2 weeks, it's all useless. So I think, Danny said it best, and I say this, my expression, the 3 most useless things on the planet: 10-day weather forecasts, mock drafts, and preseason polls. And who gives a rat's ass that St. John's picked ahead of UConn in the preseason poll, or that Seton Hall's picked 11th? You get out in mid-December and you start playing the conference games.
Absolutely.
Seton Hall's is probably pretty accurate.
Probably. For a school that's got no money to spend, they're in a heap of trouble.
Yep.
Maria, I had wanted to ask you before anything. I saw that UConn landed a pretty big recruit for their 2026 class. Are you familiar with her? And do you think that she's as good as advertised? Olivia Vukasa?
Yeah, I've actually seen her play a couple times on the circuit.
Okay.
Really talented. Listen, we've had really good luck recruiting out of Christ the King. Sue Bird and Tina Charles out of there. So historically really good high school program. She's the number 3 recruit. Again, some of those things I pay stock to, some of them I don't. But I think, she's as good, if not better, than advertised. I would say. I think.
Right.
I heard it was between UConn and WestConn. Maria,
absolutely, exactly. We were in a really tight battle for her. But no, listen, her last 4 were was Texas, South Carolina, UConn, and I don't remember the 4th, but so obviously she was highly touted by some of the top programs out there, and more importantly, when I look at some of that stuff, it's not even the program, it's the coaches that are really recruiting them, because they can, they recognize talent pretty early, and obviously those 3 coaches are historically great coaches, and they know what they're doing. So I think that one is an easy one for us, and it's a great get.
And we had talked before about their exhibition game or whatever against BC, and you were mildly impressed with some of the performances, especially Sarah Strong. And I know she's named to some preseason lists which don't mean anything. But what do you think of her and her production for this year? Is she going to be highly regarded in number 2 next to AZ?
I would flip flop that if it was me. I think that UConn will go as Sarah Strong does this year. Yeah, I mean, we saw that in a lot of spurts last year. I mean, she was the best player on the floor in I would say more than half of their games. And she's just getting better. And she's only a sophomore. She had a quiet 18 against Boston College. She's just one of those kids where, like, you look at the box score after the game and you're like, holy
Where
cow,
did that come
like,
from?
it's just quiet and it's unassuming, and she's just so good at 3-level scoring. And then, AZ played great, specifically in that third quarter, 5 for 5 from 3. I wouldn't suspect that, she shoots 100% all year, but I think even half of that will have a good season. So, and I was impressed with some of the transfers too. I thought the transfer from Wisconsin looked good. I thought the transfer from USC at the point guard role did what she was supposed to do. And then it was nice to see kids like Ducharme and Patterson back out there that we haven't seen in a couple of years. And they just look like a team that, I think at this time last year, we were still a team that was kind of figuring out what our identity was a little bit, and, kind of a little bit of growing pains. This was a team that I felt like seeing them, practice a few times and watching them in the exhibition game. Like, they, at this time of the year, I think they have a really good idea of what they're going to get from certain people. And then, the rest will just be an added bonus. I thought KK Arnold and Ashlyn Shade did what they're expected to do. I thought Jana had some good minutes in there too. So I think we look like a team that I would expect to be in contention come March, April. I know it's early, and obviously barring any major injuries or any of that stuff, I think we look really good.
Joe, what did you think? Obviously, it was an exhibition game, but they got some new pieces in the mix. I think it's Sarah Williams. She's the Wisconsin transfer. She played really well. KK is starting at the point guard position. She was the Energizer bunny off the bench last year. What do you think of the women's team so far?
Oh, I think they're going to be great. I think they're the odds-on, as Maria said, barring catastrophic injuries, I think they're the odds-on pick to win it. I mean, when you look at, you lose Paige, you lose Caitlin Chen, and you reload with a all Big Ten player, a kid who was a starter on Southern Cal, which went to the Elite Eight, the preseason freshman of the year, who I really don't know anything about. Maria, maybe you can tell me more about Kels Fisher. And I agree with Maria. I think it's Sarah Strong's team. I think she has the chance to be dominant, kind of in a Maya Moore type of way. I've heard that comparison used, and I think it's pretty it's pretty accurate. And you look at their schedule. There's no soft underbelly in the non-conference game. I mean, the conference games, and we talk about this all the time because the Big East is not very good in women's basketball. That the non-conference schedule, that's an absolute bear, starting with Louisville, whether they play them in Germany or DC. Florida State's always good. Loyola of Chicago, Ohio State, the 2 games at the Sun, with Michigan and Utah, and South Florida. Gino and Coach Fernandez go way back. He's one of the really good guys in the business. USC, out at USC is going to be an absolute. I mean, the non-conference schedule, God bless them. That's better than most teams' conference schedules will be. So, the odds of them getting to March without a loss are slim and none, I think, just because of the nature of the schedule. But I think they're loaded. I think Gino and Chris and Morgan and JJ and Tanya have done a terrific job reloading, which is the UConn way.
Yeah, they'll definitely be battle tested by the time they get there.
And Fisher, she's a kid. She's from I believe she's from the Baltimore, Maryland area, but she played high school basketball at IMG Academy, which is a powerhouse.
Wow.
And she's really good. I mean, she's not super tall. She's like 5'9", 5'10", but she can do a little bit of everything. So it gives them a little bit of a taller guard coming off the bench, which I think is helpful because, we don't really know what, 100% yet what we're going to get from Ducharme and injuries and stuff there. But I think their second five could probably come second in the Big East. From top to bottom, Joe hit it. I mean, they did such a phenomenal job. And this is where the transfer portal helps a little bit, right? Because, you're taking two kids that, to his point, have high caliber experience at other programs. And I read an article, the girl from Wisconsin was saying, like, listen, I thought I was good and I was doing things really well. And then I stepped into my first couple of practices at UConn and it was an adjustment. So I think that speaks to, even if you're playing at a high caliber and in a really good conference somewhere else, it's still, you got to ratchet it up a little bit. So I think it'll take her and some of the young kids a little bit of time. I don't think we're going to see any of the freshmen step in as smoothly as we saw Sarah Strong step in last year. And as soon as we saw her do that, but I think it won't take that long either. And I think what I'm really impressed with is, like, I read the article on Olivia, who committed, the number 3 recruit.
Yep.
And they asked her, what was it for her? And she said, honestly, it was the girls, like, obviously it takes a certain type of kid to be able to go and play for Gino and all the pressure that ensues. And I think that's understated in a lot of situations, but this is a team that is a really close team, kind of carrying over from last year. And I think that you can feel that. I see that just watching them the few times that I have this year, that chemistry, which Paige did facilitate a lot of that. But it does seem like the kids that were here last year that are back have kind of embraced that and are carrying that over. And I just, you can't put a statistic on that. I think team chemistry and genuinely liking each other and genuinely caring about each other goes miles further than statistics will. And I think you're already seeing that on the court, which is huge.
Maria, is the Fisher kid a potential backup for Arnold at point guard? Is she a point guard?
She can play the point,
Yeah.
I think, she's I would say, like, the great part about her is she can play the 1 through 3, pretty seamlessly, which I think is good because, as much as I love KK, like, if she's on the wing,
right,
now you kind of have 2 point guards in and one of them's not really a great shooter, right? I mean, we all know she can get downhill and wreak havoc on defense, but she's not a lights out shooter, where I think this kid can shoot the ball a little bit and she can handle and pass.
Dave, what are your thoughts on the women's team so far? Is it Sarah Strong's team?
It's definitely Sarah Strong's team. I mean, she's the standout star coming back. But for me, it's I just find it incredible how Gino every single year finds all the best players that will fit into his program and gets what he gets out of them. It's amazing to me, especially in today's era where a lot of the coaches are not adopting that style of coaching. And
No.
And I'm sure, look, I'm sure he's adapted, somewhat over the times, and Maria would know better than me as he's, gotten older. He's probably a little bit more of a grandfather than he was a dad, maybe when Maria was playing. But I think that his ability to adapt is fantastic and still hold the values and apply the values that he's always had. Nobody in all of sports does it better. I mean, the only other guy, and he's no longer coaching, what to me was Nick Saban, and Gino's still there, and he's to me the top coach in all sports in college sports in the United States. There's nobody that's been able to do what he does, and I think that's amazing. And the girls, the women that play for him, really not only buy into that, but there's so much great. One of the good things about the internet is the footage you can find and stuff that he talks about, and he's done a really nice job. I don't know if he put it out or people just put it out on, on because they enjoy what he talks. But I've seen so many different things where he's been on stage where it's with some of these success coaches and talks about what he values, and it's unbelievable. It really is unbelievable, and you don't see coaches talk about it candidly and as transparently as he does. And I think that as a parent, and obviously Maria is a parent too, when you see a coach like that, you're like, yeah, this coach is gonna demand a lot from my athlete, but that athlete's also gonna get a lot out of the whole entire process. If they're able to make it through in the end, they get a whole lot more than they ever could have imagined. So that's to me is always the glue to the whole thing. Obviously, his assistants are second to none in the whole United States as well. But it's the program, it's the leadership, and all of that combined that just, to me, they're the team to beat, and those are the reasons why, not just talent.
Joe, I was looking at obviously the men's roster.
By the way, I want to interrupt. I'm a parent too. My child is talking now.
Okay, you're good. The men's roster, they took some transfers, which they took 3, which I was, or maybe more, but I was surprised by who they took. They took some 50-year guys. Do you expect to see good performances out of them? The kid from Dayton, they took Silas Demery and Dwayne Comera from Lemoyne, which I was shocked at as well.
Well, Karoma's only a break glass.
Okay.
In case of emergency.
Okay.
In his 5th school, in his 5th college, by the way.
I like that. He's a break glass in the case of an emergency. That's a good one, Joe.
You can use that one.
Yeah, I might use that. I think every team has 1 or 2 of those, right?
Yeah, exactly. Look, if Malachi and Demery don't play well, they're not going anywhere. They are key points, key cogs in the operation. Now, Demery was hurt for the Boston College exhibition. He should be good to go this week when they play Michigan State in Hartford in their 2nd exhibition game.
Is he the Georgia kid?
He's from Georgia, right? Okay. He's a North Carolina kid who came from Georgia. And Smith out of Dayton, he's got that moxie. He's got that Hassan Diarra moxie that I think every good team needs. They're very important pieces to the puzzle. And again, as I said last year, and I'm going to repeat it this year, another big piece of the puzzle is what do they get out of Jalen Stewart and Jaden Ross. These are guys who have to produce because they've got their juniors, and if they don't produce now, when are they going to produce? You can't expect, even though the freshman class is great, you can't expect the freshmen to be good game in and game out, especially at the beginning of the season. Now, look, the schedule, even though they've got a lot of terrific non-conference games, they've also got some that are not terrific.
Right.
Okay. So that's your chance for that's the chance for your freshmen, for Furphy and for Rebe, the center, and for Brayton Mullins to get their feet wet and to understand the system and what it takes to play for Coach Early in a game. That's another adjustment that these kids have to make when they come in. The coaches can be one way in practice, and then when the lights go on, be a little more intense, shall we say?
Yes.
And so, but I think Smith and Travis Demery have to be really good if UConn wants to get where they are. Silas Demery have to be really good if they want UConn to get back to where they want to go.
And I was just curious about this one. They're playing BYU at the TD Garden. Was that obviously because they expect a big crowd for it, or
It has nothing to do with it.
okay, that's why I was
It's
asking.
all about BYU and their kid. UConn's trying to
Oh,
UConn's trying to make it seem like it's a caravan homecoming, and it is to a degree, but it's all about the BYU kid who's expected to be the first pick in the draft next year.
oh, okay. So they're doing it to feature him and get
Yeah.
him some
He
attention
can
there.
play too.
Yeah,
can
he's a
play.
player. He's a player. I mean, put it this way, Maria. I think if he had come to UConn, then I don't think there would have been any question that UConn would have been the overwhelming favorite
I
to
agree.
win the national championship again. He's
Yep.
a heck of a player.
Yeah,
DeBanza.
he's fun to watch too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of people have been talking about Caravan. What do you think as far as him? Do you think we'll see some improvement as far as him, or do you think we're going to get what we saw from last year? What are your expectations?
I don't. I the only thing he needs to improve in is his 3-point shooting. That's all. He just needs to be more consistent. Everything else, he's an incredible leader. Kids gravitate to him. He's steady. He doesn't commit the dumbass fouls. He rebounds his butt off. He moves the ball. It's just about being able to hit 3-point shots. That's the only thing Alex has to be better at this year, because everything else he's really, really good.
And I mean, I know that they have Reed, but I saw that they brought in 2 freshman centers, over 6 or over 7 feet tall. Hurley likes to play bigger guys inside. Well, were you surprised that they brought in 2 centers over 7 feet tall?
Oh no, they had to.
They had to.
Once Samson Johnson left, you
Yeah.
know, the one thing that Danny's done since he's been here is it's always been 2 centers. It was Sunogo and Klingon, and then Klingon and Johnson, and then Johnson and Reed, and now it's Reed, and it's the German kid who's going to play. The other kid again is just there for, in an emergency. But if Rebe can play and spell Reed, because look, the one thing I'm looking for Terrace Reed, stay on the floor. Don't get in foul trouble. He had constant foul trouble last year. So he's got to stay on the floor. Now, all indications is that when he's been healthy, and he hasn't been healthy a lot in the preseason, he's looked terrific. So, maybe maturity slaps him in the face, and he's smarter on the floor. But yeah, the Rebe kid, the German kid, the 7-1 German kid, is going to be an important part of the puzzle.
And I know, obviously, you mentioned Stewart, and you mentioned Ross.
Right.
What do you expect out of Mr. Solo Ball?
Play like he did last year. He was great last year.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to do anything different, I mean, shoot the ball, shoot the 3, be aggressive, go to the rim, and play good defense. I thought he was the unsung hero of the team last year. I thought he had a great year. I mean, he was really the breakout player. He could have won Big East Most Improved Player. In fact, did he? I don't remember. But that's neither here nor there. No, Solo's fine. And for a 6'4" kid, he rebounds pretty well.
Yeah, he gets in there.
Yeah. So I just think consistency is what you need from Ball, and more consistency, good consistency from Stewart and Ross.
Dave, what do you think as well about the transfers that we brought in, and the 2 big freshman centers, and Caravan?
Well, I think Rebe, is that how you say it, I guess?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, is really, really interesting prospect at 7 feet, and played in Europe, and understands that style of play, and that should fit in real well with Hurley, and obviously Silas Demery is a guy who averaged quite a bit of points, could score. can shoot from the outside. He's been a proven player.
Yep.
So I think that's a big deal. He's a big guard, and Malachi Smith should be a good addition from Dayton. He also, did a little bit of scoring. He averaged almost 10 points, I think 9 points a game, or 9.3 points a game. I think it is. He played. He has a bunch of starts at Dayton, so I think he's going to be should be a good contributor. I mean, Hurley did a really nice job from that standpoint. Caravan, obviously, we expect him to play well. I thought Solo Bowl was fantastic last year, and he's a guy that's going to continue to have a big role. I think they're going to really, really improve this year, and have an opportunity to really to do great things. I think they're going to be a team that could really, really have an opportunity. I mean, depending on how Hurley continues to get them better over the course of the season, they're going to be a team that can go real far. I mean, obviously they're ranked real high in the preseason, based off of some of the transfers they got. Obviously, getting some big transfers that actually played a lot, is a big deal, and lessens the question marks because you know what they can do. So, and I think having a big man is important. Joe touched on that. Having 7-footers that can play is a big deal, and Hurley's had a lot of success with that.
Yeah, because it creates matchup problems. Maria, what do you think about the transfers that we got coming in? I mean,
Yeah, I
the
mean,
kid from Dayton and Georgia.
not to sound like too repetitive, because I mean, I think Danny and his staff did a great job of, picking up what they needed in the transfer portal. I think for me, like issue last year, and I'm interested to see how it plays out this year, is like the years where the UConn men have been consistently phenomenal and have gone really far. One, we had unbelievable point guards. And I think for me, like just waiting to see like who really is going to be that go-to guy at the point, and do we have a solid backup? Which I think, like, we have some guys that can be that and do that. But, I think if you look back historically, um, a guy that gets people settled, gets us into our sets and our looks consistently, can knock down the three if needed. I think for me is just kind of like I felt we lacked that last year
Yeah.
in a bunch of different games. Not that it was like glaringly bad, but I think if you compare it to the year before, it was just something to me that I think stands out. And I'm just waiting to see who's going to be that guy. I mean, Joe, I don't know what your thoughts are on who you think will be that guy this year, and who that backup will be.
Well, I think the plan, Maria, is for Demery to be the Tristan Newton and for
Yep.
Smith to be Hassan Diarra. And
Yeah.
and you hit the nail on the head about the point last year. Obviously, and everybody wishes him well at his new school, but Mahaney was just a square peg in a round hole.
Yep.
That wasn't on the kid. They brought him in to do something that he didn't do at St. Mary's and wasn't equipped to do at UConn, though he tried. He
Yep.
tried his tail off. And I always thought Diarra was better coming off the bench.
100%.
I think
Yep.
when he had to start, that kind of
Yeah.
pushed the limits a little bit. I think in a perfect world for them, Demery is the starter. Malachi comes off the bench and spells them. If they have to play two point guards, they'll play them together, but then that compromises them at other positions, size wise. Because if you've got those two and ball out there, then you got three guys who are like 6'5" and under, and then it only leaves a space for one of the wings, and it's going to be Caravan, it's going to be Alex, ahead of in that kind of set. And then you've got either Reed or Ryba, which I just found out is how you pronounce the German kid's name. It's Ryba. Then you've got them in the middle. But yes, I agree, Maria. I think in this system, and maybe in every college basketball system, point guard is the most important position, because if your point guard is scattery, other guys can't play to the best of their abilities. And
Yeah.
I thought the point guard play was scattery at best last year.
Yeah. So I think like I just haven't seen these two guys
Right.
play the point. And not only that, but like coming from other places, this is a different animal of a system for a point guard. I mean, there's so many reads and so many looks in the system that Hurley and his staff run, that, I'm kind of waiting to see how that plays out after the first couple games and who that guy is going to be. But I just think I think they have all the other pieces to go really far. I believe that. I just think that the point guard role, especially when you get to March and the postseason, like that's got to be the steady Eddie. You know what you're getting every single night, facilitator. So I'm excited to see if those two guys can be that, because I think if they can, with the way they play defense and the system that Hurley runs, I think they'll always, be in it.
I don't think Demery will get overwhelmed by the moment because he played a lot at Georgia.
Yeah.
And the SEC is better than the Big East.
Yeah.
So I don't think he'll be overwhelmed by the moment. But as you said, fitting in to what Hurley wants to do, and it may take a few games. It may not be in early. They won't be at their best in November. Hopefully, they're at their best in March. But I put it this way, Maria. Guys, I think I'm more confident in Demery than I was last year in the point guard plan. So I think they'll be okay there at least, if not good.
And the bench should be Smith is obviously back.
Ross
is back. Yeah. Ross's brother, I guess, is a freshman. I don't know the details on him as a recruit, but I'm assuming
he's a third string guy.
Okay.
Yep. But the older Ross, and Smith are going to be key parts off the bench because of their height and them as the wing guys being able to come in and play a varied role. And obviously the centers. I mean, Reed was awesome last year down the stretch. And I think that if he can continue to improve, I mean, early on he wasn't played as much and then became
he got hurt.
Yeah, he became a huge role. And so the depth in the bench there with those swingmen at 6'7", and obviously the guys down low. So I mean the depth, Ross and Smith being able to come in, give really good minutes, be able to play, and improve, I think is a big deal as you get later on in the year.
Well, it's Stewart too. Don't forget Stewart's a guy.
Stewart,
yep,
he's gonna have to, and he's gonna fight for minutes with Mullins and Furphy. I mean, Mullins is gonna. My guess is the way they'll come out and start, and I have no inside information, is they'll start with Demery and Ball in the backcourt, Mullins and Caravan and Reed up front, and then fill in the pieces from there. And don't forget last year, and you kind of alluded to this, Shu, we had questions on this show last year. Should Ross have been starting at times ahead of Samson Johnson?
Right.
Yeah, right. So that just showed, Ross had a pretty good freshman year, other than not being able to stay on the floor due to fouls. Which wasn't as big a factor last year because of Johnson. Now, when Johnson and Ross both got in foul trouble, that's when they ran into issues. But
Joe, I wanted to ask. I didn't know about. They did have another graduate transfer. The Alex, is it Millender from
break glass when needed.
Okay, just checking because he's a graduate transfer, so I figured it was probably one of those situations.
He's a practice player. He's a practice player. Ross's brother is a practice player. The others. The 7-1 kid from Turkey is a practice player. These are two teams, and we didn't really touch on it as much when we were talking about the women. Gino never has 15 players.
No, I saw that. I couldn't believe it.
And both the men and women have 15. And as good as that can be at times, it can also be a little bit of a pain in the butt.
Oh, it can absolutely be.
Probably since my freshman year, Joe.
Yeah. Yep.
When we had a full roster, but you're spot on. Like you know, even at my like this year for my team, like we have 14 kids that can like play this year, which is a great problem to have, but it's a little daunting even in
Yeah.
practice just to get kids the amount of reps that they
The
need
reps.
to feel comfortable out there. You know, you practice for 2.5 hours or whatever, it goes by quick, and to get them that many kids up and running on a system and feeling comfortable within the system, and then you got to plug and play different rotations of people.
And
It's a
Maria,
lot harder than you think.
how do you think having all these players affects what UConn has done as well as anybody, which is to get good male practice players to toughen up the first teamers? Do you use the guys as much, or do you play your second teamers and sprinkle them in to get the starters? Iron tested iron, or whatever that phrase is.
Iron
Yeah,
sharpens
I
iron.
mean, I
Yeah.
think
Iron sharpens iron, right?
yeah, you do a little bit of both, I mean, the practice players are good in different segues when you're trying to give people some spells. Because if you got the second team playing against the first and you want to sub out some of the first team to get them a spell, it's kind of like, all right, well, now the second team's got to go on that team. So I think you're still using them. I
Yeah.
think what's cool is that you can do some really competitive like inter squad scrimmage type stuff at practice, where you put, 7 on one team, 8 in the other, and you kind of just let people battle and you split. Like, I think it would be like, I'm remembering back to when I was a freshman, it was like you could divide teams equally. So not necessarily take like the starting 5 and go against the second 5, but you can take and challenge some kids on that first string to go with maybe, the second string or the third string to really dig through that. So I think it gives a lot of opportunity for that. And, one thing I didn't mention a ton of when we were talking about the women is like, Sarah Strong is great. And I think it's her team, but I will tell you, AZ Fudd has never looked happier and more fluid than she does right now. Whether that's, she's just feeling much better in her skin, you get that monkey off your back of you've never won a national championship. I just think that they have so many good things going for them. But yeah, being deep is great in theory, but it's also a lot of pressure. And I think the transfer portal, Joe, adds to that because, you got kids as a freshman that are ranked in the top 50 coming out of high school, and now they're number 11 or 12 on the roster. And you flash forward to the end of the year, if they're not getting the minutes that some of these kids want, and that goes on the men's and women's side.
Yeah.
I think it hurts the men more because I think Gino does such a good job of retaining the kids that he really wants to retain. But
Right.
I mean, you're in retention mode as a coach. It's like, oh man, well, if I don't sprinkle in some minutes for this kid, they're going to be in the transfer portal the day after the season ends. And now,
Especially because the guy, and I think this happens with the guys more than it happens with the women. The guys are going to have their advisors and their peeps back home chirping in their ear. Oh, you should be playing more. You
Yeah.
can go here and play. That just seems much more like a guy thing than
Yep.
a woman thing. So
Yeah,
I
no,
think
I totally agree. But I think we've seen like over the last couple of years, we've seen, more people leave the women's team than we've ever seen before. And I think the portal plays into that a little bit. And I think some of
Right.
it is like addition by subtraction. Like you read the writing on the wall of like, maybe this isn't the place for me if I want to play. It's the
Right.
place for me if I want to win. But if you're a kid that says, hey, I can go transfer to Ohio State, start, score 15, 18 a game, and maybe make 200 grand more.
Yeah.
That's a lot more attractive now than it ever has been. But yeah, on the men's side, it's like, even if you're the 12th guy on the UConn men's team, you can probably go after the season to a different program, double up on your money and get more minutes. It's, so it's great to have a big roster, but I do worry about the retention of kids that aren't getting the minutes right away that they want, which we've
Yep.
never had to think about before,
No, it's a
Great-
whole.
great
It's it's part of the whole new world of college sports.
Yep.
UConn, they're able to the guys and women on the back end of the roster are able to use the UConn brand that they were recruited by UConn and got some minutes that to then go somewhere else. Whereas if they did it the reverse way, where they may have got more minutes to get from the get go, it would have been a lot harder for them from a road standpoint. So they're able to leverage that if they don't end up being one of the, the guys or girls that are really in the top tier of the team, which is totally a unique thing in basketball in the last few years, where you can actually do that. Like, you could show up at you could go the reverse route. You go UConn to Dayton if you were 14th and 15th on the roster, right? And not playing.
Well, I think it's like, the point is like, back in the day, it was, you had to make a decision. Do I care more about personal accolades versus winning? Right? If you were that person that said, okay, I want to leave because I could start somewhere else. Now it's a whole different animal, because now you put you put the finances into it, and it's not necessarily just, hey, I want to go somewhere else and play more. I want to go somewhere else, play more, and get paid more because I was on this roster to start with. And that's reality right now. Like, for programs all across the country, you know.
It's a great point. That's a really, really great point. That now we just need the UConn boosters to have like a Western Con financial funnel system in there. So just in case there's a couple of
hey, let's
guys that need a place to go.
We're working on some
you get
stuff
to the
right now.
championship. Give me that chip,
I'm trying. We loaded up our roster this year. We look really good. So I'm excited. Listen, it'll never be to the level of UConn, but you'd be surprised. Like, what's crazy is, at my level, like, I got kids that, can't afford new sneakers and can't afford like all this stuff. Like, you give a kid 500 extra bucks for the year and you're like, you're Santa Claus, man,
Mm-hmm.
So it's all on different levels, but yeah, we'll see.
Joe, is obviously St. John's, are they the team to beat in the Big East for the men?
Yes, no question.
Okay.
And I think
they're
UConn and St. John's, and I think it's everybody else.
Their out of conference schedule looks very difficult. Is that accurate as well?
UConn's?
Yes, the men.
Well, yeah. I mean, you start off in this with New Haven, UMass Lowell, and Columbia.
Well, but besides that,
which is part of some bogus tournament type thing. But then you got BYU, Arizona, Illinois, Kansas, Florida, and Texas. It's a pretty daunting non-conference schedule. But I think Dan formulated it that way because he wants to see early on who can sink and who's going to swim and who's going to sink. They have, I would say they have 5 games that are locks, even though Bryant is a pretty good mid-major team. New Haven's in its first year, UMass Lowell, Columbia, Bryant, and East Texas A&M. But then, the teams that I mentioned, those are all good schools. Those are, and they're all, the only game that's around here is it's Texas is in Hartford and Arizona is in Gamble. Everything else is in neutral site except for Kansas, which is back out in Lawrence this year. So they've got a really good non-conference schedule.
Yeah, and then if you look, like, I'm looking at St. John's right now. I mean, they got a loaded out of conference schedule. I mean, they got Michigan, Alabama, Baylor, Iowa State, Ole Miss, Kentucky. Like, they're loading it up too, which I think is smart. And I think
you got to.
Yeah, I mean, with the way that the Big East is run, I mean, I actually think St. John's probably has a harder out of conference schedule, a little bit, not by much of an edge to UConn, but yeah, I think those two teams, they got to do that. They got to challenge themselves out of conference and expose themselves to a different style of play to get ready for the postseason. I mean, we saw at St. John's last year what happened, once they hit the NCAA tournament, and having to go up against some of these other conferences that are they're just heavy hitters. It's a different style of play. And if you're not exposing your teams to it during the season, it can be a shell shock once you hit March.
Yep.
Joe, I wanted to ask you, because college football obviously is different, but we've seen so many coaching changes early on in the season, more than I think we've had in the last 10 years or so. Do you think, with the transfer portal and NIL, do you think that basketball could see the same with coaches being fired early on?
No.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
not at all, Steve. I don't
won't
think
be the same.
it's a legitimate question,
Yeah.
but I just don't see that. I think
Good.
football is much more reactionary
Yeah.
and plus the basketball season is so much longer.
Longer.
Basketball season's 30 games. Football, you got 12 one-game seasons. And if those one-game seasons start to go down the crapper, then and plus I think the other thing is, I think in all these places that have made these football changes, and Shu can tell me if I'm right or wrong. A lot of times it's the boosters, it's the supporters who are saying, "I'm not wasting my money if you can't beat Aardvark U or whoever." I think a lot of times it's driven by the boosters, and especially now in the area where people are giving money for NIL.
I mean, Dave, do you think that's accurate? Where if a booster were to say, if you don't fire Billy Napier tomorrow, I'm pulling my money, and we'll go through and fire him.
Do I think it's accurate that a booster would say that? 100%.
No. That's why they would get fired. Like if enough boosters come forward and say that.
It depends on the booster. I mean, you could look at our program in football, and there was influence from our bigger boosters. So, not that we have anywhere near some of the same level of capital that other places do, but there's always going to be some level of influence. There is no university athletic program at the highest level if they have some really big boosters that is not going to have some level of influence on the president or the athletic director if he or she wants something done that they think needs to be done. Now, do they listen to them? Are there strong leaders that make their own decisions and say, "Hey, I take your advice," and and then I'll figure it out from there? Yes. Are there guys that listened? There are some guys, presidents and ADs jobs that are probably tied to some of these boosters at the highest
100%.
program. So it really depends on the situation. It really definitely depends on the situation. And this has nothing to do with athletics, but I remember my first job. I worked for one of the UConn's. He's still a trustee for UConn, and I could tell you, people listened to him when he talked. So, and he was, he ended up becoming like a billionaire. But like when he talked, people listened. You know what I mean? And it didn't mean he made sweeping changes, but he was donating a heck of a lot of money, and he was on the board of trustees. So he had a level of influence. And I can tell you that he, to this day, he's going to be friends with the president of UConn and have a conversation. So there's no doubt it goes on in athletics, and it's whatever sport or sports are the most important, and the boosters that are tied to those that'll have some level of influence as to what happens. There probably is something to do with that, with these coaches getting fired, mid-season.
Yeah.
Because the boosters probably want time to be able to gather the money needed to be able to get the next person, because they're paying these huge golden parachutes, as they used to call them in corporate. You know what I mean? Golden parachutes that the coaches have. So there's definitely going to be an influence.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I just think it's crazy, especially the guys
Listen, there's always, by the way, before you go into it, there's always been an influence. There's 30 for 30s made from SMU, where the guy had people on payroll back when you weren't allowed to pay people. At least less of it's behind closed doors. You know what I mean? At least less of it's behind closed doors. And there are some groups saying no. Meanwhile, bags are being left at people's doors. So, that part. I think if you to argue on the better part of the side of it, I think that part is better. At least you know where the spending for the most part is going, and it's announced and all that kind of stuff.
Joe, I know this is probably a stupid question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Why was the name of the XL Center changed? Was the rights up already? It just seems like it had just been changed to the XL Center.
I'm disappointed it wasn't that stupid a question, Steve.
Oh, well, I thought it was just recently the XL Center, so that's why.
Until this past year, yeah. People, XL didn't want to renew its rights. They had a bidding. They put it up for bid, and People's Bank wanted to be involved, so they spent a lot of money. It's not. It's nothing more. It's nothing more cloak and dagger than that.
But had it been the XL Center for 5 years, 10 years? Had it been that long?
Yeah.
Oh, it had been that long. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's where I was wrong. I didn't know it had been that long.
Joe, what's going on with the TV situation for the men's team this year?
It's a mess. It's Peacock.
Well, it's not all Peacock. Let's not get carried away here. But no, I mean the Big East decided to open the rights up for bidding. NBC wanted to get involved. Fox wanted to get involved. ESPN wanted to stay involved. So now you've got the game. I mean, look, I'm a little reticent to put it this way, but I think some of the women's fans are going to lose their minds trying to find where these games are.
They already are. Like, for whatever reason, I'm in some of these Husky groups, which actually it's kind of nice because I do get some information that I probably wouldn't have gotten on my own. But it does seem a little hodgepodge and like trying to figure out which games are where, and do you have that service on your plan? I do miss the old CPTV days, man, of like you knew all the games that weren't nationally televised were on CPTV, and you were going to be paying, $150 for a mug, and that's how we kept it alive. But at least it was like a central location of where to go.
Well, the same with SNY though, Maria. It was the
although like SNY is interesting one because not all areas in Connecticut
got
SNY was not
exactly.
Yeah, you still had to like add that, or you had to get a different TV service. So I know that was, a little bit of a mess. It was for me, like when I moved and I switched over some services, I had to add some stuff. So, hopefully they could maybe someone needs to publish like a Where's Waldo map of like here's where you go for this game and here's where you go. Here's what you need for the season.
I mean, when the schedules come out, all the TV providers are out there. Like the first game, because it's opening night and there's 11 Big East games, is on ESPN Plus, which is where, by the way, I do all my work now. But then you've got Peacock, FS1. The BYU game is on Fox. The Bryant game is on True TV.
So you're looking at the guys' schedule. What about the girls?
The girls' schedule is let's see what we got here.
It's
the girls. Here's the women's schedule. Louisville game is on ESPN. Florida State's on FS1. Loyola's on True TV, which everybody gets for the NCAA. So that's not, But I think the games that people are going to lose their minds are the Peacock games. I think that's the one, because that's not a service that everybody gets. No. And I'm seeing 6, 7, 8, 9, at least 9 games on Peacock.
I know Joe doesn't know that one.
6, 7. No, exactly.
Well, no,
and there's a lot of FS1. No, I will say this to throw props to one of the TV stations up here. Channel 3 is going to do a 30-minute pregame for every men's and women's game. Now, they're not broadcasting the games.
Right.
So they're going out of their way to give people something, because people would get used to watching. The men have never had a pregame like that. The women would have it on SNY when it was Gary and Kara and CPTV would have a pregame show. So at least Channel 3 is going to go over the edge, going to go above and beyond a little bit to give the people more UConn content. But when there's a UConn game on FS1 or on True TV, to those outlets, even Peacock, it's just another game. It's not an event on CPTV, and a lot of it was because they were trying to raise money. The game was treated as a bigger event. Even SNY did that. SNY did a lot of good peripheral programming, like Gino's show, like all the specials that they did. So they did Huskies All Access. SNY did a really good job with that. But as you say, there's parts in the Northeast corner that you don't get SNY.
No.
Yep. Now, who's going to be doing that show on Channel 3? Like, who's running that? Is that an alum who's going to be on? Like, I know Meg's done some stuff, and
I think it's going to be the Channel 3 sports staff. Is Joe Zone and Mark Robbins and
gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I mean, then and the nice part about what CPTV did and SNY did on the women's side, I can't speak as much to the men's, but you have some alumni that were a part of it that kind of they know a different layer about the program and about what's going on than your local sports guy does. So, I think that's going to be an adjustment for UConn fans throughout the state, because I do think Meg and Kara and some of the other people that have been a part of it over the years did a really good job of that personal touch and, had the relationships with the staff and the team that can get a little bit more inside information than just, that the regular sports talk radio can get. So,
well, it's just on these other outlets, it's just another game.
Right.
It's not something special.
It's going to be, I think either way, it's going to be an adjustment for UConn fans across the state.
Yes, you're totally right. But a lot of them wanted to lose their blank when the games went from CPTV to SNY, and they eventually adjusted. And the people who had asked SNY saw that because SNY had more money behind it, was able to do more than CPTV. Just a fact of life. The broadcasts were better, not from a production standpoint. Don't get me wrong, because the CPTV people, Bob and Megan, did a terrific job. But for all the peripheral programming, SNY had more money to, when SNY was spending money on a UConn special, CPTV was spending it on Bernie and Friends. It's just a way of life.
Well, all right, guys, this was a great first inaugural episode for our 2025-2026 season.
I'm still disappointed. By the way, the XL Center, to answer your stupid question, which wasn't stupid, was the XL Center from December of 2007 to this past summer.
Oh, that's a long time. That's a long time.
I didn't know it was that long.
What is it called now? I didn't even catch that. What's it? What is it?
People's Bank Arena.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
I didn't know it was
That's the biggest bank in Connecticut, isn't it?
I think it is. Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah. I didn't know.
They've had a long relationship.
Other than the bank that Maria's at, because she's got all the money.
Yeah, right.
It's funny because you can't even find a People's down by me. It's like TD, you got Chase. It's like Fairfield County. They don't use People's, but
you got all the big New York banks, Maria.
Yeah. But People's they've always done a ton with UConn. Even when I was there, People's Bank was a big name up there. So that's
sure,
good.
we know you had a bag on your doorstep from People's Bank all the time.
Yeah, huge one. Yeah. Big.
And big.
It got me at least a Reese's, from the co-op.
That's all we wanted. That's what Kozlowski said he would have signed for a cheeseburger yesterday. That's what he said he wanted.
Jonathan's cheeseburger.
Yeah. Well, beautiful job. Thank you. A great inaugural episode of Husky Hoops. And I think we laid the foundation of another spectacular season for the legendary Maria Conlon, the voice of the Huskies, Joe D, Coach Schumann, who has his big game on Sunday.
Good luck, Dave.
Good luck. What's the spread? I'll talk to you on Friday. We'll get into that on Friday. We'll spend the majority of Friday talking about your game.
Yeah, I love that.
Oh, that's
I'm
funny.
Steve Cully, the best podcast host in the universe. Remember, when life gives you lemons, don't make lemonade. Take 2 oranges, throw them right back at life.